Hi everyone. I thought I would give a quick tutorial, well, quick is relative, I guess, but I would give a tutorial about on knitting. So when you start knitting, the first thing you're gonna need is essentially uh, needles and yarn, right? Um, Usually you would go to a store and you will see this. So let me describe what this means. So the first number here is how thick the yarn is. So I think this one, maybe this one, probably similar to this. But then you also have like, this is kind of like a medium weight, what we call weight. And then this is like very thin. Okay, so there are different numbers. The 6 is the thickest, and 1 is essentially like this. All right. In addition, you will see here, I'm not sure it's really readable, but it says like 4" by 4". So for a sample of 4" by 4", if you're using a US 13 needle, this is US 15, so that's not the case, but that's fine. Or 9mm needles, so these are the equivalent, you should be able to make 9 stitches and 12 rows. And this is for needles, and then if you were crocheting, then you would have the gauge also for the crochet. In fact, people sell like things like this that are super useful, where you have 4" by 4", and then you can actually count your stitches. So you would come with your work and you would say, okay, let's see, let's count. So to count here, you actually counting all the little V's. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So compared to this that said that this should be 9, and this is a different yarn, but the stitches would be a lot thicker, a lot wider. Okay, so when I said the little V's, each stitch, let me show you here, each stitch is a V like this. Okay, and this is what we call the right side. So this is like kind of the front that you're showing to people. But just like when you wear a sweater or when you wear a t-shirt, you know, if you have it inside out, the inside is called the wrong side. So this would be what it would look like from the other side. And this is a knit stitch. This is a purl stitch. So the knit stitch makes little V's, and those little V's correspond to like those little waves on the wrong side. So a knit stitch on the right side corresponds to a purl stitch on the wrong side, and a purl stitch on the right side corresponds to a knit stitch on the wrong side. Okay, with this out of the way, when you start knitting, you do not want to use teeny tiny needles. You do not want to use very thin yarn. This will make your life a lot more complicated than it should be. Instead, use big yarn, big needles, and then practice. And then once you are like familiar with it, then you know you can move on to like other things. Another thing that I would suggest is to not start with dark yarn, just because this compared to this is a lot harder to see. Like you cannot really see the twirl, whereas here you see that it's on like spiraling, but you cannot really see anything here, right? So you know, when you start, you want to be able to see what you're doing because you're unsure about what you're doing. So in general, you count about a foot for 10 stitches. So let's count 1 foot and then 2 feet. All right, so we're gonna go here. So on that side, I have what I call, what is called the tail. And on this side, which is connected to my ball of yarn, this is called the working yarn. So we're gonna take the the yarn like this, and then we're gonna flip this over. So then when you're looking at it, it kind of forms like a 4, okay? So you made that loop, and then you're gonna take the yarn and you're gonna bring it into that hole right here that you just made. And now you're gonna have like a cursive A if you want. So you're gonna take your first needle and you're gonna put it into that hole right here, the loop that you just made. All right, I like to like hold it with my finger. But from your left hand side, you're gonna make the OK sign. And then you're gonna pass your index and your thumb in between the working yarn and the tail. And you're gonna grab with your 3 fingers these 2 strands. And then with your index and your thumb, you're gonna open and you're gonna make your way up. Okay, might be difficult a little bit at the beginning, don't worry about it. Just like make your way up. Grab and pull. Grab and open, grab and open until you have your first stitch. Once you're here, so again, this is your tail, this is your working yarn. Make your OK. Go in the middle and grab with your 3 fingers, grab everything. Actually, I'm realizing that the middle finger I don't really use anyway. But anyway, so now you're gonna open the thumb and the index again from your left hand, and then you're gonna come down like this, and you're gonna make a little V like this, okay? Now, we don't pull, we don't let loose either. You just want to have a little bit of resistance because everything in knitting is based on tension. So I'm gonna go from left to right and then right to left, and we're gonna call this number 1, this is gonna be strand number 2, and this is gonna be strand number 3. Okay, so we're gonna go under number 1, over number 2, under number 3, and on the way back from right to left, we're gonna go over number 3, and then you see there is a hole between number 2 and number 1. We're gonna go through that down. And now you're gonna let your thumb go, and you're gonna pull, so you can actually put your thumb here instead, and then pull, okay? So now you should have 2 stitches. Again, we start from here, so every time I'm holding the very last stitch that I've done, I go under number 1, over number 2, under number 3, over number 3, in the hole, let the thumb go, make sure that the yarn goes over the needle and not under, and then pull with your finger, with your thumb. And we're gonna make 10 stitches like this. And make sure that your stitches are on the body of the needle and not on the tip, because you see that the radius of the tip is a lot smaller than the body of the needle. And this is important because the diameter of the needle is really what dictates how big those stitches are. So you don't want to have irregular sizes of stitches. All right, so we are now at 10 stitches, and I have my tail on this side, I have my working yarn on this side, and I'm gonna turn this needle to my left hand like this. Okay, so I have my working yarn over here. I'm gonna hold my needle on my left hand, and then on my right hand, I'm gonna take my right hand, and this is called English knitting. There is like English knitting or continental knitting. In continental knitting, you hold your yarn on your left hand. I do personally English knitting, which means that my yarn is on my right hand. So with your 3 fingers on your right hand side, on your right hand, you're gonna grab, just really support the yarn. And you're gonna point with your index finger and you're gonna go under. So this helps you control the tension of your yarn, and this is what is most important in knitting. You're gonna grab the needle You're going to make your way through towards the tip of the needle. And you're going to move those stitches toward the tip as well. And when you knit, so we're going to learn how to do knit stitches. You want your yarn to be in the back, okay? So we're going to find that hole right there. You see it? It's right there. Not this one, because that's where your yarn just went through. So you want to have that hole, and we're going to make a cross. Going to be big X, okay? And with this hand, the right hand, you're going to guide your yarn in the back from the right to the left, and you're going to go around the needle. Okay, so now you are in between the two needles on that side like that. And now I like to push a little bit on this. Don't pull too much on the yarn, okay? But you're gonna pass the needle now into the front of the other one, of the left needle. And you're gonna, this stitch right here, you're gonna let it go, so up. Okay, so now your needle, your stitch is on your right hand, you're on your right needle and not on the left needle anymore, okay? Okay, we're gonna do that again. So you pass in that hole right there from right to left in the back with your yarn in the back. You go from right to left, pass between the two needles right here, pass that needle from the back to the front while keeping this stitch there, and then you're gonna let go of that one, okay? The first row is always awkward. So you really don't want to like worry about it. It might be tight, like if it's tight, let's pretend this one is tight. You're gonna go here like this, and you're gonna make your way through, okay? It is normal, the first row, always. Okay, so again, make sure that every time you make your stitch, it doesn't stay here, it goes here. All right, so now you have your first row, and you start seeing the little V's that we were talking about. So as I said, a knit on the right side is a purl on the wrong side. So if we turn our work around, you can now see the little loops here that corresponds to purl stitches on the wrong side. So I'm going to teach you now how to do purl stitches. So purl stitches, you're going to do the same. You're going to hold your yarn like this, right? But this time with the yarn in the front, you're going to pass the needle on the front of the left needle. So it's the opposite, right? When we were doing knit, it was in the back. This one is in the front. And then with your yarn, you're going to go again from the right in the back of your right needle to the left, and then come back. And now you have made a little loop around your needle, and you're going to go through that hole to the other side. Okay, so right here. So I was here. Let me see again. I was here. I passed into that hole right there. Okay, I passed on the other side, and then I let go. Okay, let's do it again. And again, make sure that if you see that there is tension, pull. There shouldn't be any tension there. The tension should be only from your finger. Okay, so as I said, we have purl stitches on the wrong side that corresponds to knit stitches on the right side. Okay, something important to know is that if you keep on going like this, which is fine, eventually what's going to happen is that your work is going to roll on itself. So to prevent that, one way of doing this is to have switching between purl and knit on the sides, on the borders, and then that makes it flat. So then you can keep it flat. Okay, so what I mean by that is that, you know, you will not always be like the row is all knit and the other row is all purl. You might have to alternate between knit and purl. So I'm going to show you now what happens when you how you can go from knit to purl and vice versa. So we're going to knit 2. So make sure that this is your working yarn, not the tail, because we're still very early in the project. Okay, so now we just needed 2 stitches, right? Our yarn is on the back of the needle and we want it in the front because when we purl, we need to have the yarn in the front. So we're going to go under the needle and this time we're going to purl just like we would do otherwise. Okay, so now our yarn is in the front. Similarly, when you are purling and you need to go back to stitching to knit, you're going to go from the back to the front. No, from the front to the back, sorry. All right, so, okay, now you're in the back again. Come back to the front. And now from the front to the back. All right, so you see now that you have purl stitches on the right hand side, which corresponds to knit stitches on the wrong side. So let me purl this row. So then we're back to like a regular knit on the other side. And then I'm going to show you how to cast off or bind off. Okay, so now that we're here, we are going to bind off. So to bind off, you start with 2 knits. So knit 1, knit 2. And then what you're going to do is that you're going to take the front of the first stitch you knitted. You're going to go backwards. Okay, and you're going to pull this one over this one. So to do that, you go like this. Make sure that you don't lose that stitch right there. See, it's like between those 2 needles. There's the yarn that you just passed. So you go like this, and then I'm trying to see how you can see it right there. And then you pass it in front, and then you let go. All right, so let me show again. You knit 1, and then you take this, and then you go over. Don't lose this one. Let go. Okay, now you're going to be left with 1 stitch. So to deal with that last one, you can pull it a little bit and make a loop. You're going to come, you're going to cut. Okay. And you're going to come here. You don't want to go through that hole again because your yarn just went through that. Instead, you want to go through the loop. Pass on the other side. Just pull. And there you're done. All right, so you've learned how to cast on, do some knit stitches, some purl stitches, how to flip from one to the other, and you've learned how to bind off. I may be able to do another video on lace. If that is of interest, let me know in the comments below, and I will do my best to do that. Thanks. Thanks for watching. Bye.